And now Susan will talk about San Francisco plants.
So hi, I'm Susan Karasoff with the California Native Plant Society in San Francisco. We call our chapter Yerba Buena. And I have a native clay soil garden in San Francisco. Next, please. The challenges of planting in San Francisco include a wide variety of soils. So take a look, that yellow section, that's all sand and sand dunes. That pink stripe is serpentine. So there's actually two different kinds of rock that people in San Francisco are attempting to garden on. I live in the upper northeast section of San Francisco, so I'm in North Beach, and I'm on clay. So, for instance, if I have plants that thrive in my sunny clay garden, they aren't necessarily going to thrive in the sandy, windier, foggier section over on the west side of town. Next, please. So not only do we have all these different soil types, but we have different weather. This is a fantastic chart from the San Francisco Department of Environment showing the different areas that have, on the west side, wind and fog. In the middle, much more wind because it's going over or trying to go over a bunch of hills in San Francisco, and then less wind, less fog, although some, on the east side where we do get more sun. Next, please. So I'll introduce hedge and ground cover native plants that thrive in clay soil with a couple of plants at the end that are edible and deciduous. So California cities, counties, and water districts that encourage drought-tolerant plants use the WUCALS rating system, and WUCAL stands for Water Use Classification of Landscape Species. The WUCAL site is hosted by the University of California, Davis Division of Agricultural and Natural Resources. Many plants, both native and introduced, have been measured for their water use for different cities across California. And most cities require that plants in city-managed properties are designated WUCALS low or very low. So the plants that I'll discuss here are WUCALS low. So these plants, we'll start with the hedge plants. This is Coast Barberry. It's got tart edible berries with pectin for pie. It's got those very showy yellow flowers that bloom early in the season, so it's very attractive to hummingbirds and to bees that are overwintering. It gets about 7 feet tall. It's a fairly narrow plant. The ones that grow near me are about 3 feet wide. According to Calscape, it gets to 5 feet wide, but it's just great with those shiny green evergreen leaves, showy flowers. It's a wonderful landscape plant. Next, please. So the mallows have showy pink flowers for 4 months, June to September. They grow very quickly. Depending on the version of the species, it can get 8 to 15 feet tall and about 8 feet wide, and it really does grow quickly. It's got those beautiful pink flowers, and the different species have got different leaf color. So that particular species is the Jonesy with a more gray leaf, but there are versions that have sort of a medium green color and another one that's got a darker green color. So you can choose what looks best in the situation that you're designing. But it's a fantastic hedge, just so pretty, and just always covered with butterflies and bees. I just love it.
Does it get more leggy in the shade?
It grows towards the sun. I've got one just to the right of this. That plant that looks a little bit darker green is under a tall plant in my next door neighbor's garden, and it's growing. I haven't seen it be leggy myself, but not the two in my garden and not the one in my mother-in-law's garden in Walnut Creek. Mm-hmm. So this hedge is Malvarosa. It grows quickly. It likes full sun, about 10 foot by 10 foot, and it's the butterfly larval plant for the lovely gray hair-streak butterflies. All of these plants are not only necessarily feeding the adult butterflies, but they're feeding the caterpillars, so it's wonderful. This is spiny redberry. So redberry can take some shade. It's got shiny green foliage, and it's got very showy red berries. 7 foot by 7 foot, and it's a butterfly larval plant for the pale tiger swallow butterfly. Next, please. So we're going to transition to ground covers. So you saw sagebrush, Artemisia californica in both Ruhina's and Bob's presentation. This is the version that is the flat version. It's full sun. It's very easy to grow. It's got that soft, fragrant foliage, so it's a wonderful replacement for lawn. It'd be great in a children's garden. And it's a larval plant for the West Coast lady butterfly. Next, please. So California sages are entirely edible. The leaves, the flowers, the seeds, it's very soft. So it's a great plant for a children's garden. It's a wonderful substitute for lawn. They're usually pretty flat until the flowers come up. It's great for hummingbirds and for bees. And the California bees are very, very gentle. So even in a children's garden, they'll just go away from the kids. Next, please. So both Ruhina and Bob talked about coyote bush, wonderful at holding hillsides, blooms in the fall, wonderful nectar plant for adult butterflies, and the butterfly larval plant for the Gabb's checker spot butterfly. Let's do a couple of shade-loving ground covers. Next, please. So yerba buena is a delicious edible evergreen plant. The leaves taste like a combination of oregano and a light mint, and it's a wonderful ground cover for a children's garden. It loves a lot of shade. It loves fog. It's so easy to establish. Next, please. And San Francisco, with its variety of soils, has two native strawberries. Beach strawberry grows in sand, and woodland strawberry grows in slower draining soil. So woodland strawberry is the only plant in this presentation that is defined as wood calls medium, but I grow it, and it is wood calls low in my garden in North Beach. I watered it a few times to get it established, and it's just been fantastic. It's got very, very flat evergreen leaves, those very showy white flowers, and then delicious edible strawberries. It's fantastic.
Both of them like sandy soil?
No, only beach likes sandy soil. Woodland likes clay and slower draining soil.
Okay.
They look the same, though. When I go on iNaturalist and I identify plants, I can't identify which plant it is unless I also know where it's growing.
Okay.
Because I can't tell them apart. So manzanita, we're back to a plant that would prefer some sun. There are a variety of manzanitas that can be used as ground covers, and they've got early white flowers that feed hummingbirds and bees, and then they've got those showy red berries. It's a little bit stiffer in terms of having it in a children's garden. It's safe, and those berries are edible, although frankly not delicious. So it's safe for a children's garden. It's just not as soft. Next, please. So California lilac, ceanothus, are available as ground covers, as tree forms, in addition to hedges, and they've just got those gorgeous flowers. It's such a fantastic plant. It does like full sun, and it's a butterfly larval plant for 80 species, including the California tortoiseshell and the gray hair streak and the pale tiger swallowtail. Now we're on miner's lettuce. So this is the only annual I have in this presentation. It grows beautifully in shade. It's the easiest California native plant to grow. If you can get the seeds out of the seed pack and onto any kind of soil, it will grow. It wants about 8 inches of water. You can water it or not. You can wait for the rains. I used to grow this down in Los Angeles. I have friends who still grow it there. I grow it here. We've had a terrible rain year. I already have lettuce, and it's delicious.
Lemon vinaigrette. That's what I love with it. It has such a great spicy flavor. The lemon vinaigrette goes with it really well.
Oh, I got to try that. Next, please. So here's a couple of my favorite deciduous edible native plants. There's blue elderberry. Is a 20-foot by 20-foot small tree. My 12-year-old one is about 15 feet by about 6. It's a shrub, but you can trim it like a tree, and it's happy with that. And it's got these showy white flowers, very, very shallow. It attracts all kinds of small insects. So the birds come to eat the insects. And then the leaves are great as a butterfly larval host plant, so they eat the caterpillars. And then the berries show up, so they eat the berries. It's just this fantastic supermarket for birds. And the berries are also delicious and edible for us. So I love this plant. Next, please. So this is the last. So we have many, many more edible plants of this, but this is one of my favorites. So thimbleberry is in the raspberry family, and it's the only raspberry relative that I know that doesn't have thorns. It's got very soft leaves, so it's wonderful for a children's garden. The thimbleberry in my garden gets to about 4 feet in clay. I've seen it in Golden Gate Park where it gets to about 6 feet. It is deciduous, so it's going to lose its leaves. So your client's got to be okay with that. But when the leaves come up, it's got those wonderful showy white flowers, and then it's got that delicious fruit at the end of June. So the reason you don't see this in farmers markets, because you would, it is delicious. It's only got ripe berries for one day. That red berry is red for one day. The day before, it's got that kind of beigey color, and the day after, it's dried. So either you or the birds need to eat it the day that it's ripe. It's so much fun to grow. It is a very easy plant. My one caution is that it does run, so have your client be okay with the fact that it's going to fill up the space, and it will fill it up pretty quickly. And then you will just have this fantastic patch of delicious berries.
Thank you, Susan. That was very nice.